Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 39 of my 52-week challenge to do a live stream every single week on LinkedIn. I'm here with Andrea Koppel. She is a career coach, a top job search expert on LinkedIn, as well as a podcast host for her Time for Coffee podcast. How are you doing today, Andrea?
I'm doing awesome, Stephen. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and this officially is 75% done with my LinkedIn Live 52-week challenge here. This is number 39.
You are like the marathon man. You really are, Stephen. It's like you make 26.2 miles seem in fact, you're not the marathon man, you're the ultra marathon man.
Maybe I should change or bring some of those behaviors to actually run a full marathon. I did a half marathon back in, I think it was like 2018. I said I would never run anything further than that. So we'll see what happens.
Never say never.
Yeah, that's definitely true here. Yeah, a lot of comments just popping in already. So just say hello to Dr. Sadev. Good morning to you, all the way maybe from India.
Nice.
Hi, June. Happy Friday to you as well. Thanks for your support. And saying hola to Britt. Thank you for commenting as well. Well, June, you're beating me with, or I'm beating you with the live stream, but you're beating me with all the followers. So I think you'll take the followers over the live streams.
Yeah, June is amazing in so many ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am a big supporter of her content, and then she posted about this today. I'm going to be on her LinkedIn Live next week, so we'll be talking about a variety of LinkedIn tips with Ediana Rosen as well.
Awesome. Well, hopefully one day I will get to be a guest on June's show. That would be that would make 2021 worth it.
All right, June, if you're still watching, make sure you write that down and send Andrea a message here. So before we get into our topic about overcoming challenges as a student, I'll give you a couple minutes, Andrea, to introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Andrea Koppel. I am on either my fourth or fifth career, depending upon how you count it. When I was in college, I thought that I was going to be an American diplomat. I studied poli-sci, Asian studies and Chinese, and I didn't become an American diplomat. I ended up going into journalism. I did that for 20 years. Then I moved into public relations. I did that for a couple of years. And then I moved into the nonprofit world doing policy and advocacy. And then about 4 years ago, I quit that job in the nonprofit world to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. And I ended up discovering podcasts. And I started interviewing professionals in dozens of different industries about what they do and how they built their careers. It's called Time, the number 4 coffee. There it is on the screen. And the reason that it's called Time for Coffee is that is shorthand for, hey, do you have time to grab a cup of coffee with me? Because I'd like to ask you about what you do in your job. So basically, I have virtual informational interviews, and I've had hundreds of them. If you go to that website, you can search by industry on the homepage. And as a result of listening to all of these amazing stories about how careers unfold and what people do in their jobs, I realized there was an awful lot of really crappy career advice out there. And that's how I became a career coach. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely make sure go to Andrea's website here, Time for Coffee. I really love the coffee thing. You have the full-on podcast, but you also have the espresso shot, which are the shorter clips. And I actually had the pleasure of joining your podcast earlier this year.
Did.
So make sure to check out my episode as well.
Yes, and you were incredible. And in fact, I don't know if your Espresso Shots episode has dropped yet. We had your main Time for Coffee interview, and then I pulled clips from that are called K-Cups. I don't want to confuse people too much, but check out Time for Coffee if you want to learn what it's like to be an engineer, no longer at Lockheed. Where are you now?
Yeah, I started my new job at Applied Materials. This actually is the conclusion of my second week here. So Yeah, I was at Lockheed for 7.5 years, so it's definitely it's a totally different industry for me, and I'm excited for it.
And it's a perfect example of what I talk about on LinkedIn and with the young people that I coach, that you cannot predict where your career or how your career is going to unfold. So just focus on what you want to do for the first year after you graduate. And in Stephen's case, he stayed at Lockheed for 7 years, although he did have multiple roles at Lockheed. And then just continue to follow your interests. And as your priorities change, I don't know if that's one reason why you switch to applied, but as your priorities change, you can evolve, your career can evolve.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one misconception about careers, that you don't have to do the same thing forever. Right. Before we get into that, I just want to highlight some comments here. So, yes, June will send you a message, Andrea. She will put you on her LinkedIn
All
Live.
right.
Brits is in his third career here. Saying hi to Philip. Thank you for
Philip.
supporting my LinkedIn Live here, Philip. And then this
He's
is
the
my
best.
former coworker at Lockheed. This is Daniel Hong. Food and drink just bonds people. So, that's a great way to
Yes,
bring people
coffee.
together.
Absolutely. Yeah, breakfast foods are also welcome. I am all about the caffeine, and then you can do you when it comes to the food.
So, yeah, absolutely. We were talking about misconceptions about careers. The first one you talked about was, you don't have to do the same thing forever. You can try different things. You can, like you had 4 or 5 different career changes. Do you want to build on that topic, or do you want to add another misconception about careers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me start with, if you are in school or if you just graduated, don't think about this first step as having to be like the big career move, the capital C career that you're going to be doing the rest of your life. Because Gen Z, your generation, is going to have at least 17 different jobs over 4 to 5 industries. So just focus on what you'd like to do for the first year. The other misconception is that your major is going to be the tiny house that you're forced to live in for the rest of your life. And that is absolutely not true. As I said, I was a poli-sci major. Forget about it. I never went into government. I never went into like the think tank world. I didn't work on the Hill in policy, on Capitol Hill, I should say, or in local or state government. Instead, think of your major as the foundation of a professional skyscraper that you're going to be building over the course of your professional life, with each new job and each new career adding a new floor in your professional skyscraper. And then the last misperception is that once you do pick that career, you're going to be stuck in it, and it's going to be really hard to switch industries. Think instead about your transferable skills. So your hard skills and your soft skills, and what I like to call your superpowers. These are things that come naturally to us, that we were just born with. Take those and see where your strengths lie, and then look at which job functions feel good to you. So whether it's communications, whether it's project management, like Stephen, whether it's finance, whether it's marketing, whether it's communications, and then look at your interests. These are the things that you do because you want to have fun. Where are you spending your free time? What extracurriculars are you involved in? What volunteer work? And follow that into different industries. And every job function is cross-cutting into all of those different industries. So really the possibilities are endless.
Wow, I really, really love that analogy, right? You said your major is not the roof, it's not the
Tiny
ceiling
house.
for your career, house, it's the foundation. And I just want to share my career so far, and it just applies to everything you just said. My undergrad was in computer engineering. I was hired as a software engineer at Lockheed. And once I got into Lockheed, I didn't write a single line of code until 4 or 5 years in. And what happened was I ended up in a team, and the manager said, I don't need any more software engineers. I'm going to make you a systems engineer. Go follow Garrett around. And Garrett was the hardware lead of the lab. And, I didn't mind that, right? Because, I did get my degree in computer engineering, but the skills that I learned about working in a team, having that engineering thought process, that mindset, solving problems, that led me to get into system integration in that first team. And then I started venturing out, trying different things. I got into system testing within that same team as well. I found different positions throughout the company. And about 2 to 3 years into Lockheed, I wanted to shift to something different. I wanted to grow my career, and I got into project management. I went to get my master's in engineering management. And it wasn't until 2 or 3 years later that I officially became a project manager. But in those roles before that, I was gaining skills to build up that project management experience. So, and then now I just switched industries just 2 weeks ago. So again, your first job out of school it doesn't really have to follow your major. It can be anything you want. And just as long as you try different things, you can pivot to different careers, different jobs, and in every single job you're in, just make sure you learn something and take those skills, and that will bring you to the next job, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And you just reminded me, Stephen, of another misconception, another myth that I want to bust. And that is that most college seniors knew. So those of us who've already graduated, me a lot longer ago than you did, but also those who are graduating in 2022 somehow knew or know what they want to do. Absolutely not. Most of us had no idea what we wanted to do. And in fact, there's data that only 27% of college graduates are working in an industry that is even related to their major. So even like slightly related to their major, only about 1 out of every 4 graduates. So take comfort if you're confused. Take comfort if you're overwhelmed and if you're feeling anxious about it. And if you would like some additional support, please follow me on LinkedIn. I post almost every day to try to help those of you who are struggling. And if you'd like additional help, I would be honored to coach you in my personal time.
Yeah, definitely there. So yeah, reach out to Andrea. She puts out a lot of great content that's very relatable, and you share a lot of personal stories as well, right? You think you posted one recently. You went on a trip to Mongolia, right, with your dad and his friend and his son. So there's a lot of personal stories that Andrea's not scared of sharing, and those are really, really relatable. I want to highlight a couple comments here. Thank you, Josh, for commenting, always supporting my content as well. And it's exactly right. Your major is your foundation. And I tell a lot of college students or people who are new to the working world that you only use about 10% of what you learn, regardless of what your major is, because your job is so specialized. It's in a special industry. A lot of it's on the job training. So definitely master the basics of your major or what you're learning. And again, apply those those mindsets, those soft skills that you've learned into your first job.
And actually, I would say, again, because I'm farther down my professional journey than you are, Stephen, don't rule out the fact that just because you're not using some of the skills that you learned in school in your first 5 years or your first 10 years out of school, that doesn't mean that you won't use them in the 15th year or the 20th year after you've graduated. And that's why I liken it to being a skyscraper, because you start with that foundation, and every job and every career you have is just adding to your base of knowledge, and you are getting taller and taller and more powerful and frankly more valuable in the job market as you progress.
Yeah. And then that skyscraper analogy is perfect, right? Because you're not just a single story home with multiple rooms. You're a skyscraper. You're going higher and higher and higher. You're building up the skills, and it's vertical, but there's also many rooms within that same floor. So you're building up a massive set of skills as well.
Exactly. And Really, you are such an incredible example of this, Stephen, because you've got your side hustles and you've got your hobbies, and you're always posting about, I've done 5,000 push-ups this month, and I did 1,800 squats, and I'm now learning, whatever, Congolese, and I've decided, I'm on Duolingo, and I've got 800 days in a row. I mean, you have so many things that you are doing in your free time to further enhance your skills.
Yeah, you're giving me too much credit. Not 8,000 push-ups or whatever you said, but again, those things, I didn't start those things when I graduated from college. The fitness goals, I think fitness goals, the language goals, I picked that up later on. And then also posting on LinkedIn, this 52-week challenge of live streams, it just sort of morphed over time as I figured out what my interests are and what I really enjoy doing. So again, your major, your interests now or today aren't likely going to be the same ones 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and your career is going to change as well.
100%.
And then just highlight this last comment here from Philip. So he started as a music major, then went into HR, recruiting, and then coaching. So I think Philip's another great example of, your major doesn't define who you are. Your career can take so many different changes and pivots along the way.
I actually love that the sky's the limit as it aligns to the skyscraper metaphor that I painted, because that really is the truth. The sky is the limit. And whatever strong emotions you may be going through right now in terms of not knowing what you're going to do when you graduate, I just want our viewers to take comfort in the fact that we have all been there. We have all been there. And I truly believe it doesn't matter where you start. And there is no such thing as making a mistake. So I think that one of the frequent challenges that I see among the young people that I coach is that they are afraid. They say, well, okay, I've narrowed things down to these 3 potential paths, but am I shutting down options by picking the one in the middle rather than the one on the right or the left? And the truth is, no, you're not. And you also, a year from now or 2 years from now, cannot imagine what might interest you then. Those other 2 potential paths may be in the rear view mirror, and you suddenly have a brand new interest. So just go with the flow. Let life unfold. Put yourself into, try to make the most out of that new job opportunity. Even if you don't love it, there are still things that you're going to take away from that, valuable lessons, skills, relationships that are going to be beneficial to you as you progress in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And at Lockheed, I had 5 jobs in the 7.5 years I was there. I was part of a rotation program. And, when I was choosing my rotations, deciding what to do next, I had options, right? And again, you can't really overthink saying, oh, I should have went that way, or what would have happened if I went the other way. But the approach I took was, in every single position I've had, I've learned something new. I was able to meet and network with so many different people. I made a difference in every single job. And each of those experiences just made me who I am today. So again, you can't get so concerned with, or you just get so concerned with the what ifs, right? Your career is what it is. And again, I think another thing that is, don't compare your career to someone else's, because everyone's journey is unique. So don't look at someone saying, oh, when they turned 30, they became a manager. I'm here, I'm still an individual contributor. But again, you have unique experiences that you will become a manager in the future if that's what you wanted to do as part of your career path.
Yes. And if you don't mind, Stephen, I would love to tee up a point that you made in our Time for Coffee interview that I think would be really interesting and beneficial to your viewers. And that is, when you first applied to get into that rotational program and you didn't get in, and what you did to follow up on that and how you turn that whole situation around.
Yeah, I'll share a little bit from that. So I applied to the leadership development program and I didn't get in. And I asked for feedback, which is the number one thing you should do whenever you get rejected. And they said, you need more project management experience and leadership experience. And I always thought the leadership experience was a little funny because that's why I want to get into the leadership development
Right.
program. So for the project management experience, I went to get my master's. I went to go get my master's in engineering management. And for leadership experience, I couldn't quite do that in the team I was in. Again, I was still following Garrett around. He's been in that same team for 20, 25 years. I can't just take his job and start leading the lab. So I joined an employee research group. It was called PAN, or Professional Asian American Network. And I started as the mentoring and professional development chair. And that's how I started getting leadership experience. I led events, I coordinated events, I found speakers, I organized speed mentoring events. And that really helped me build confidence in myself because I had to get on stage and introduce the speakers or facilitate the event. And eventually that led to me building up enough confidence to start posting on LinkedIn, doing monthly articles in 2017 about my goals for the year. And then 2018, challenging myself to do videos as part of my 52-week challenge on LinkedIn. And if I didn't get rejected, I wouldn't have joined that employee research group. And I wouldn't have built up that confidence in myself to put myself out there, to start posting videos on LinkedIn. And now I have my side hustle doing career coaching, as well as the LinkedIn Live that I'm doing today and posting content multiple times during the week. So again, it's, your career, you may want it to go a certain way, but there's all these little pivots and bumps along the way, and you just got to roll with it. And I wouldn't have changed anything. I'm actually glad I got rejected. And when people ask me, what's your greatest failure? I bring up the story because without that failure, that wouldn't have made me who I am today.
I so love that story. And by the way, I totally agree with what Steven said about failures. And I have failed many, many times over my professional journey. And one of the most visible failures was the fact that I had been working at CNN as an on-air correspondent for 14 years. And after I had been there 14 years, the new president of CNN basically fired me. He didn't renew my contract. And then I don't know if it was him or if it was somebody on his team, leaked that to the media. So it was very humiliating for me. It was like a gut punch. And I had only really ever worked as a journalist for 20 years. But the silver lining, and I really mean it was a blessing for me, was that I had actually been unhappy in my job at CNN the last 3 years because I had become a mother during that time. And so my priorities changed. Suddenly the idea of just picking up at a moment's notice and flying with the Secretary of State to some country overseas for 5 days or a week wasn't working for me anymore. And then I went to cover Capitol Hill and I was having to get to work at 6 a.m. So I was getting up at 4 a.m. and sometimes I wouldn't get home until 10 or 11 at night. So I wasn't seeing my child, not to mention the fact I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the courage to quit because I didn't think there was anything else I could do other than journalism. So when he fired me, I decided I wouldn't stay in journalism, and I forced myself to pivot into public relations. And I went and I had coffee with all kinds of people and met them for lunch and breakfast and educated myself about what they did. I had informational interviews and I networked. And that was how I discovered that there was this niche within the public relations field that I'd never heard of before, that only worked with nonprofits and foundations. So honest and truly, your failures, the times that you face plant can often lead to much greater highs and more exciting adventures in your professional life.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that story as well with me. And you see a lot of people post about this on LinkedIn, that rejection is just redirection. And here are just 2 examples. I'm very early on in my career. This happened in Andrea's career as well. So again, if you get rejected from a job, if you get rejected from anything, again, just it's a redirection. Maybe that's not the right time to work at this company. Maybe it's not the right position for you. Maybe it wasn't the right growth opportunity. It's okay. Go to the next opportunity. And I learned this at a conference that I went to, that NO stands for next opportunity. So that's another way.
I like that.
That's another way to look at it. So again, don't beat yourself up about getting rejected, because for that leadership development program, I was definitely defeated because I wanted to be part of that cohort because I knew everyone there. They were all my friends. But again, I am glad I got rejected, because that made me who I am today. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing LinkedIn Lives right now.
I love that. And I will also say to those of you who've applied for a job at whatever company and you didn't get that job, don't give up. Reapply. Next time you see another posting, keep in touch with the recruiter or the hiring manager. Ask for feedback. How can I make myself an even stronger candidate? They might just say, you're missing this. You can take a course on Coursera or Udemy, or if you're still in school, you can take another course. There are all different ways that you can fill in the gaps. And in my case, I applied to CNN twice. The first time, they didn't hire me. The second time, the stars were aligned. And because I spoke Mandarin Chinese, and one of the correspondents who was based in China had told them he was going to be leaving, suddenly they needed somebody who spoke Chinese. So, there are all different ways that you can break into your dream companies. And I would encourage you to continue to apply, to continue to reach out while you're also looking for other opportunities as well.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I didn't mention in the story I shared earlier, so the following year I applied and I got into the leadership development program. And a few months later, we had this big dinner with everyone that got selected in the program. I happened to sit right next to the program manager, and he told me that the previous year, 15 people asked for feedback, but you're the only one that followed through. So as part of the interview, in the first 10 seconds, when he said, when I asked you, what's new, what's different from this year and last year, and you said, I started my master's in engineering management to get project management experience, and I wanted to get leadership experience, so I joined the Professional Asian American Network Employee Resource Group. Once you said that in the first 10 seconds, we knew you were a lock, because you listened to our feedback and you acted on it. You didn't just listen, you actually acted on it. And as long as you didn't just screw up terribly on any of the questions, you were pretty much guaranteed a spot. So, I like to share that example because, like you said, they reject you. Again, keep in touch with the person, ask for feedback, and then you never know when that next opportunity is going to come back.
And act on it. Double high five, Stephen. Another reason you're an extraordinary young professional.
Definitely. I really appreciate that. So as we wrap up here, Andrea, we covered a lot about just misconceptions about careers. We talked about your major doesn't define who you are. I really liked your skyscraper analogy. Your major isn't the roof or a house. It's just the foundation for a skyscraper. So your career can go so many different ways, but your major really gives you that base knowledge for you to do anything you want. And again, rejection is just a redirection. No means next opportunity. Always ask for feedback, always grow from it, and you'll never know what new opportunities will come your way. Just want to give you the last couple minutes here, Andrea, to make your plug. I'm going to put your website here again. You mentioned your podcast. You also have a boot camp that's coming up as well.
Yes, in early 2022, I'm going to have another college to career boot camp. This is a weekend boot camp over Saturday and Sunday. And day one, we get career clarity. So for those of you who are overwhelmed, anxious, confused, we'll get you at least 3 career options that you could pursue once you graduate. And then day 2, we dig into the tactics, the strategies, and the how to find those jobs that interest you. So that's when we get into building up your LinkedIn profile, optimizing it. How do you network, especially using LinkedIn? How do you tap into all of the amazing people who are on LinkedIn right now to educate yourself. And then how do you do an informational interview that can uncover, get this, the estimated 80% of jobs that are not posted, that are hidden, that are out there. So follow me on LinkedIn. I will announce it sometime this fall, and hope to see you either on my LinkedIn feed. Please interact with me, DM me, and go to the Time for Coffee website if you want to listen to any of hundreds of interviews that I've done to learn about different professions and get career advice from amazing people like Stephen. And if you want me to coach you individually, there's a tab there as well on the Time for Coffee website.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea. Again, connect with her on LinkedIn, and then this is her website. She has so many different resources. She has hundreds of podcast episodes. You can book a coaching call with her, and she has her upcoming workshop that she's going to share more details on as we get along the year. That's going to start early next year. Any other final thoughts, Andrea?
Have a great weekend. It's Friday night.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you and your fiance have a wonderful weekend. No, not now, Philip. Tomorrow morning is the time for coffee. Okay, right now, I don't know about you, Stephen. I am not an evening coffee drinker.
I'm going to disappoint you. I don't drink coffee at all. So I feel ashamed being part of your Time for Coffee podcast when I don't even drink coffee.
You did an amazing job anyway.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. A lot of different comments here. And thank you, Andrea. Thank you for sharing all your insights here. And to everyone that's watching, and to you, Andrea, have a great weekend. And I'll talk to you all next week.